What's going on, peeps? Kenny here again, and today I've got another hype versus reality video for you guys. And what that's going to be about today is this little guy. That's right, folks. This is the Spyderco Brouwer, and as you guys can see, this has a custom acid etch and stonewash finish on the blade that was done by me, and it did come out excellently. Really enjoy the way this came out, and so does Thomas Connolly, the guy who has been gracious enough to send this my way. I really enjoyed checking it out, so thanks a lot, Thomas. He's been a sub of mine for a while now. He follows me here and then on Instagram as well. Thomas, thank you so much. And yeah, really enjoyed etching this as well. It really came out cool. And yeah, and then I put a mirror finish on the blade. Kind of hard to show you guys that, but it is a mirror finish. And yeah, screaming sharp right now, guys. Ever since I did the acid etch and edge, I haven't used it much because I didn't want to wear up the acid etch. So I did most of my using and everything before I etched the blade, and then I just did that and sharpened it this week. I had sharpened it before. So yeah, saying that, this is a hype versus reality. So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys the hype versus reality show. And you guys will get, first off, I'll start with the specs. I'll do an overview of the knife and the maker and all that. Then we'll go into the hype, which is a lot of times created by the community, by the manufacturer, by the distributor, by the designer, you know, and a lot of times it's, you know, just created by us, by personal hype. So yeah, and then I'll go into the reality and how it actually performed for me, and all of that. So yeah, and in saying that, we'll go right into it. As far as the Brouwer, it was designed by a Dutch maker named Jerry Brouwer, and you know, I'm not sure. I don't see a lot of his work around. I don't know how accomplished he is as a custom maker. I know he has, from what I could tell, he has like a very you know, traditional style look to his knives and stuff like that. I don't know a lot about the maker, and I couldn't really find a whole lot, so sorry about that, guys. I don't have a lot of information on the maker. All I know is that he decided to do this collaboration with Spyderco, and Spyderco did a very nice job of you know, manufacturing it. This was done in the Taichung, Taiwan factory. And I'll go into all of that right here when I get into the reality. So yeah, I do like the design, you know, I do. It's a little boring as far as aesthetically, but that there's something to be said about that, you know. A lot of people think a CRK is kind of boring, but I do love the simplicity of that design. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and go into the spec, and I'll put those on the page right now. I don't want to waste you guys' time spewing off a bunch of specs, so I'll put that on the page, and then I'll bring you guys back, and we'll go ahead and do some size comparisons. First things first, let's go ahead and bring some other Spydercos on the table. This is the Para 3, and we do have a very, very similar size knife here. The Brouwer is a very small knife, which is very good for people that are looking to get within a certain law or something. You know, we've got a under 3-inch blade. You know, I think it's 2 7/8, so that's a really nice touch there. You don't have to really worry about that in any type of legal situation. So that's a nice touch. And I'll go ahead and bring in another Spyderco that's kind of in that same realm, and that's the Chaparral. This is also produced in Taichung, Taiwan, so that's another Taichung made knife. Very similar size to the Brouwer. So if you have a Chaparral, you can kind of imagine at least the length of the Brouwer, although the Brouwer is going to be wider in the hand and pocket, a little thicker, not wider necessarily. But yeah, So there's a good size comparison. You guys get a good grasp on the size, at least if you have Spydercos. Then next I'll go ahead and bring in a Benchmade, just so you got that kind of spec in there. The mini Griptilian, which is a very similar size knife. Overall length is pretty damn spot on, although you're going to get a little more cutting edge out of that. And you still do have a 3-inch blade, so if you're under 3-inch. So if you're in those types of places, you'll be good with that. I'll also bring in the MBK. This is the MBK Laconico collaboration. Very similar size knife, although again you have more cutting edge on this guy because of the lack of finger choil, which you guys know if you watch my videos that I'm not a believer that a finger choil is necessarily necessary in all cases. So yeah, we won't get into that. But moving along, I'll go ahead and show you guys some budget options. This is the Kershaw Atmos, very similar size knife. And then of course, little cool steel Tough Light, thanks to my buddy. And so you can see that's a similar size knife, although much smaller. And then one more budget option, just for the hell of it, we'll go ahead and bring in a Manly Knives Wasp, which is a larger knife, but only slightly. And yeah, that's it as far as size comparisons go. Then I'll go ahead and move on to the hype, guys. As far as this knife goes, there wasn't a whole lot of hype. There's not a lot of action on this knife as far as I can see. Maybe when it first came out, we had some action, and then actually what followed that was more of a negative hype, I feel like, than a positive hype. There's a lot of guys bashing this knife, whether it be it's $170 for this tiny little thing. You got G10 and it's kind of plain with the just titanium scale in G10. Just seemed plain to a lot of guys. A lot of guys didn't like the shape. It's also Taichung, and it just a lot of guys don't like the Spidey hole being too sharp, and there's a lot of stuff going around about just the random stuff you hear. And then the pocket clip, there's a lot sticking out with the regular pocket clip on such a small knife. So that's another thing. And this knife did come with the MXG gear clip on it from Thomas. So just so you guys know, I wasn't reviewing this with the stock clip on it. So that would have changed things just a little bit as far as that much sticking out of the pocket and maybe ergonomically. But I did like the MXG clip, and I do like MXG clips. So I think this is a good way to review it because it's probably the way I would have done it too. But yeah, as far as that's concerned, there is a lot of negative hype on this knife out there. And there's some positive too, with it being like really functional and stuff like that. But a lot of negative hype, guys, which I'm not super surprised by when getting it, but I don't really understand as much negative as there is. So in saying that, I'll go ahead and get into the reality. Again, guys, an S30V. S30V from Taichung at $170 seems a little steep. Guys are saying like, oh, I can get a pair of 3 for $130. Why is this guy $170? Just because it's titanium, which yeah, that's it, guys. Because it's titanium, it adds a lot of value to the knife. So anyways, I'm gonna go into the reality. The reality of this guy when I got it out of box is kind of askew. I just spit on the knife. Sorry, Thomas. It's kind of askew, guys. When I first got this guy out of box, I gotta be honest. I kind of tore it apart. Not like tore it apart as in taking it apart, but I tore it apart in a philosophical way. I kind of tore it down with things that I saw immediately. For one, I don't love the shape. I don't really love the aesthetic design of the knife. It kind of looks, I don't know, just clunky to me a little bit. Not very refined. Personal opinion, guys. Obviously, a personal opinion. This is all personal, subjective type of thing. But I didn't love the look of the knife, okay? Just first things first, and I'm just being honest. But as far as like, you know, like first thing I did was, you know, flick it out, I looked it over. It's very decent, you know. I mean, as far as fit and finish goes, guys, there's not a lot to complain about. The centering was perfect. I mean, which from Taichung you kind of expect, you know, some centering to be perfect. Uh, the the tolerances are relatively tight, although, you know, it's just on phosphor bronze washers, and there's no pockets or anything, so it's, you know, the tolerances you would expect with, you know, standoffs and phosphor bronze washers from Taichung factory. Everything's done very nicely. Everything's chamfered very nicely. Sorry about that sound in the background, guys. We got some kind of construction going on. Everything's chamfered very nicely, including the G10. It's kind of hard edge here, but nothing that you would notice in use necessarily. Yeah, I mean, the finish on the titanium was done very well, almost like a bead blast, a very fine bead blast, which is gonna snail trail, but in a aesthetically pleasing way, in my opinion. Standoffs are very pretty, you know, nice, beautiful standoffs there, just stainless steel. And yeah, the finish on the blade was done very nicely in that Taichung way, where it's just like a striations of the grind here with a satin, and then like this was a different, just a different direction of texturing, but pretty much the same satin, and it gave you that nice two-tone look that you expect from Taichung, kind of like yeah, just like this guy. You know, pretty much the same finish as the chaparral. So that was nice. And then as far as the, this is interesting though, guys. Look at the Spidey holes here. Do you have a bigger Spidey hole on the chaparral? Just something to note right now. But yeah, as far as the fit and finish goes, I didn't have a lot to complain about. And then moving along into the action, it felt good. You know, I flicked it out. It felt good. Really solid, you know, detent and everything. And you can get your finger in that for the finger flick, but you do have to get that fingernail just inside like that, and it does have a strong enough detent where it flicks out very nicely. And obviously if you're left-handed, you'd have no issue finger flicking. And then of course if you needed to, you could get your thumb in to thumb flick, or just grab the edge with your skin and go ahead and roll it out. The action is done very nicely, and then as you guys can see, let's see if I can do this. Disengaging the bar. This is after I've already tuned it a little bit. It's not super like drop shutty, but it will drop down, especially if you, hold on. There you go. Sorry, this is really hard to do actually behind the camera. There you go. Yeah. So it's a nice like just drop down type of action if you disengage the bar properly. It does have a lock bar insert and over travel stop, as you can see there. So that's a nice touch, and you don't have to worry about this little thin bar getting over traveled. This is the only time I feel like you want one, is on a thin, small knife like this. You might need an over travel stop. And as far as lockup goes, see it's about 50%. Now this is something I noticed right away, guys. First thing I noticed, I went to kind of cut and I'm like, what the hell? I can easily push that bar over to like 100%. It still didn't like lock stick, but that lock bar travels very easily, guys. I noticed it right away. It's not, like I said, it's not in a something that's going to affect the function of the knife, but it's something that really I noticed immediately. And it was just one of those things where I was like, that's not good. But in saying that, I don't have any issue with it failing. You know, you're not going to have it fail on you necessarily. And with it going further into lockup, I don't see that as an issue. If it was slipping, you know, if it was slipping that direction, we'd have an issue. but with it going deeper, I'm not necessarily worried about it. So, but it was just something I noticed right away. And in a $170 knife, you're not exactly like, yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, moving forward, I went ahead and like, I was like, okay, well, I'm not in love with this thing off the bat, but let's see how it performs. And I went ahead and put it to work, guys. And thanks again to Thomas for letting me do that, like letting me put this thing to work and giving it a full Hype vs. Reality review. In saying that, I'll go ahead and put the cutting on the screen right now. And, you guys will see, even though my first impressions of this knife were kind of negative in a way, like I wasn't super impressed by the knife in general, when I actually put it to use, guys, when I actually put it in my pocket and went to work and just used it like a knife, damn, did it work well. It's just functionally a great tool, to be honest with you guys. I think it's done very well. It has a very thin blade stock, at 0.11 blade stock. It's somewhere in between like a mini Griptilian and like a 940, okay, if you're talking blade stock thickness. And that's very nice, it's got a good thin blade stock for this type of knife. It's a small knife. We're not expecting to be doing, like hard use, like big long tasks where you're cutting through a lot of stuff, and it's not made to do that. So in saying that, it's fully capable with such a thin stock and pretty hand-filling handle. I'll get to that more when we come back, and I'll talk more about the blade stock and geometry and everything when we come back as well. But the blade is thin. It's thinly, the thin stock and then thinly ground. So you have a blade that's going to slice very well. And I did notice this in use. Even with the factory edge, it sliced extremely well. Cut through material very easily. Was very comfortable in use. And I did find it to be a real pleasure to use. And that kind of surprised me because I wasn't necessarily expecting it with my first impression of the knife. So yeah, really, really, really enjoyed cutting with this knife, and it was just very impressive to me. And I went, like, the handle, being kind of square and blocky and blah blah. I thought it was going to be a little uncomfortable to use, to be honest, but I did not find that at all. I felt like it was very comfortable. I felt like the using the finger choil, I get a full 5-finger grip. That's very comfortable to use. So it's really nice to use. And I'm going to go ahead and bring you guys back at this point, and we're going to talk more about that blade geometry and the ergonomics. And yeah, I really, guys, like I said, as far as ergonomics go, I have a 3 3/4 inch broad, 4-inch tall palm, and then from this point to this point it's about 6 1/4 to 6 1/2, depending on where you want to start at the knuckle. So this is definitely pretty hand filling, although it's a little thin as far as this dimension and this dimension. So it's a little small, but honestly, I didn't feel like it was thin in my hand in use. And if it is a little thin in my hand, it's not fighting me because of this geometry. So I'm not like trying to fight the knife because of a thick geometry or something like that. So I felt like it just cut through stuff really easily. And the ergonomics didn't become as much of an issue as it would be if you had a thick geometry or something like that that would affect the actual use. This S90V performed excellently, guys. Taichung's S30V definitely seems to be on another level from the S30V I've tried from their Golden, Colorado factory. I did notice that their S30V from this factory seems to like just be better right off the bat. It took a screaming edge, hair whittling, no problem. First edge it took, and just excellent, guys. Really crisp edge, and held it for a nice long time. Stropped back very easily. It was done very well, guys, as far as I can tell. S30V is done very well. And it's not going to get a HRC testing. This is going to go back to Thomas. But yeah, it was done very well from what I can tell. At least grain structure-wise, it feels like it takes a very keen edge. very nice apex. So nicely done there, Spyderco, on this S30. I do believe you're getting what you pay for with this one, especially from Taichung. I feel like their S30 is definitely on another level, and you get what you pay for with their S30. So it definitely opens my eyes to like something like the S30 Sage. You know, the Sage 5 always seemed like, maybe not, I don't know, just another S30. Yeah, Taichung S30, definitely different than the Colorado S30 in my opinion. But yeah, and then you guys can see there's no jimping here. So as far as ergonomic talk, it was very comfortable up here. Whether you're in the hammer grip or in the saber grip, you get a nice control, you get nice ergonomics, and it's very comfortable to use. You don't have a ramp on the back that I know a lot of guys complain about. On the Para 3, I don't mind when you're back here. Up here, I would never be like this. This is jammed. I might be like this, but I'm not going to be like, I might be like this, but I'm not going to be like this. This is very uncomfortable for me, although this is comfortable. On this knife, none of that to worry about, guys. You've got a very open canvas here. The jimping that's here is done pretty well. I did knock this down for Thomas. That was part of the things he wanted. Although it's still, I mean, still probably, it's about the same as like something like the Benchmade grip or your Golden Colorado. It's about the same as a Golden Colorado. Maybe a little less even. But yeah. So I knocked that edge down for Thomas. And then I knocked this edge down a little bit as well on the spine. I also hit this edge just a little bit, which was done well anyways, but I did that a little more. But in saying that, it was very comfortable to use. Very nice in use, guys. I really enjoyed this. The MXG clip works well with this knife. It is a little thick back here because of the MXG, but I don't mind it, and it makes it very comfortable. Even holding it back here, I can get almost a 4-finger grip, more like a 3-finger with a little extra. But yeah, in that case, I usually was using it from here. Really more comfortable from here. Get that full 5-finger, and even if you have bigger hands than me, you got an extra gear there. So in saying, you know, this knife was more of like a 5th pocket knife anyways for me. That's how I used it. But yeah, it's really just a fun knife. Not as far as like fidgetability or anything like that, although I still found myself fidgeting with it. It was just a joy to cut with, to be honest, guys. As a cutting tool, this knife is done very well. Like I said, this is 0.11 stock thickness. When we're talking about behind the edge thickness, this is at about 16 degrees, I believe is what I did. Maybe 15. It was like right around 32 degrees inclusive. And yeah, we're talking 10 thousandths right here. I'm not going to bring in the calipers because I don't want to scratch up this stone wash. I did do it off screen though. I got about 10 thousandths here, which was, oh my gosh, guys. I got about 11 thousandths right here, moving up into about 12 to 14 thousandths through here. Then we got about 18 up here. As you can see, that it starts to broaden out, and 20 at the tip, like 21, 22 at the tip. So really impressive as far as geometry, guys, and wow, did this thing slice like a dream. And which made it just a nice, like, you know, fifth pocket carry that is fully capable. It really reminds me of the Chaparral. But the Chaparral Lightweight's definitely a lighter knife, so I would compare these. But if you're looking for more of like a frame lock frame lock knife with like a little more weight to it, maybe a little bit more hand filling capabilities, I would go with the Brouwer. Otherwise, this is a fully capable knife as well that I would totally suggest in the same kind of sense. Back lock, you know, titanium frame lock, integral lock, whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, Reeve integral. But yeah, I mean, in saying that, it just depends on your personal preference. I think these are both great options. XHP, S30. I would prefer XHP personally, but they're both going to perform on a similar level, especially the S30 done from Taichung. And so, as far as carry goes, you know, we do have the MXG clip, and it is angled back like that. And as you well know, this is very light. You know, it's a very light knife, so it carries very well for its size and for the cutting capability you're getting out of it, you know. Saying that, in a quick conclusion, guys, I would definitely say if you're looking for a small knife that's going to be, you know, a good 4-finger, you know, grip with a slicey blade, and you're not looking for a super exotic steel, this is a great option. And at $170, I don't think it's a bad deal. Yeah, like just like if this guy was going up against the Capara or a you know, like a, I don't know what's another, like a Smock or something, I don't necessarily think this guy's gonna win that battle, but that's just a personal subjective thing too. You know, if someone else was looking at it, they might go with this over a Capara, but I highly doubt that, guys. And we're talking very similar pricing. You know, $20 difference. I would definitely spend $20 more and get a Capara every day of the year. But that's me again, guys. So I don't want to get too into subjective type of you know, thought process here. I think it's you're gonna get all the things you need to get done here. Is it amazing? Like, do I think Taichung should have made this knife? Not necessarily. I think this could have been done at the Colorado factory and would have been produced just as nice. You know, I don't know why they chose to go Taichung, but yeah, I don't know. But I will say, Jerry Brouwer, I do like, you know, as a Dutch, maybe because he's a Dutch maker, maybe that's why they went Taichung, just because he's a foreign maker. I don't know. But in saying that, yeah, I really enjoyed this knife. And although I didn't think I was going to. So it kind of blew my mind, impressed me a little bit when I wasn't expecting it. Am I going to get one? No. No, guys. I'm not going to buy one. I'm probably going to send this guy away, and I'll forget about him. And it's not because of anything necessarily wrong with the knife. It's just because I have other knives that kind of fit in that same category that I actually prefer. And it has nothing to do with necessarily this knife. If I had this knife before I got like something like this knife, I might feel a different way. I do really enjoy the Chaparral though, and I actually prefer the Chaparral over the Brouwer personally. Although I do feel like this guy's just a little bit more like you can get more done. But in my opinion, I'd rather have this guy matched with something else that can get the work done. You know, that's kind of the way I go about it. I'll have the Chaparral and this guy in my pocket, and then I know whatever I'm doing, small stuff I can use this. If I got a long-term cutting, you know, I'll use this. But you know, I have options, so that's why I would. If I had one knife and I had to be one knife under 3 inches, this might be the option. You know, to be honest, this could be a very viable option. Although it would probably lose to this guy, just because this is 3 inches too. Not necessarily this guy, but a pair of 3 in general. Not the lightweight, but a standard pair of 3. But that's just me, guys, and I hope you guys enjoy this. I hope you don't think I'm bashing this knife. I honestly think it's a very nice knife and very functional. Very functional, and that's where I think this guy shines, is his functionality. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot, and I think it was done very well. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you guys, you know, I hope you guys do grab these if you're interested. Don't think that this is a negative review. So, have a great day.